Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Eugene Kuhn on the line, and he's founder over at Quality of Life Enterprises, also known as QOL. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So I'm excited to get more into, number one, spoiler alert, you got a new book coming out. Wait, that's not a spoiler because we're not telling what's in the book yet, but we're going to go over some of it. So that's not quite a spoiler, but to me it is. But before we do that, and we're also going to get into what you're doing over at Quality of Life Enterprises, again, known as QOL. But before we do that, let's get a little bit more into your background. So how did you get started in your career in business?
Well, I'm 52 years old, so it's been a while. I joined the military when I was 19, left and went to Germany, stationed there, I think for about 6 years before I went to Iraq in the first Gulf War. Went back to Germany and decided to get out of the military after 8 years and stayed in Germany. So I ended up living there for close to 13 years, but working in other countries. And I started with cocktail bars and nightclubs. And then I went on to health clubs, and we had 87 health clubs in 9 countries. And then I went on to consulting for business turnaround, and it all sort of overlapped. And, everyone says, well, that sounds eclectic, but in the end, it's all about interpersonal relations. And that's sort of how I made my start. I ended up having a massive network from politicians to royals to super mega stars, and business leaders all over Europe and in America. And that turned into me being a person that's asked their advice for many different issues, so to say. And so it just turned into a business for real. And it catapulted me to the heights that I never thought I could reach, coming from a mobile home in central Pennsylvania. And and then 2 years ago I decided to take it all and end it and go 100% online, which is what I've been doing for 2 years. And it was tough. I was in 9 countries a month, living that dream that everyone says, that society says you're supposed to be living. But it wasn't a dream. I was overweight. My wife wasn't happy. My kids weren't happy. I was never home. I was fulfilled in that aspect, but as many know, sometimes leaders lose their identity in their title and in their mission. And of course, when you lose your identity, you also lose things that are important to you. So I didn't want that to happen. And I went online 100%, which I've been doing now. And I do this thing. I do business turnaround and coach politicians, business leaders, and other entrepreneurs.
Well, now that I know your backstory, I mean, you sure created a business that you're not going to forget what's important now. I mean, you literally named it, and I think it's a great transition. So, Quality of Life Enterprises. Let's get into that. What are you doing over there?
Well, quality of life is what we all strive for. So if you'll ever see me on social media, every single video I end with, it's all about quality of life. Because in the end, what is quality of life? Quality of life to me is something different to you, is something different to everyone else. But in the end, generally speaking, it's financial and geographic independence. That means I can be where I want to be with who I want to be and have the money that I need to do it. For me, that's quality of life. And the time, discretionary time, which is one of our most important, sort of assets that we have. And what we do there, I have a partner named Lane Balone. He's also a military veteran. He's a bit younger than I am. He's 31. He just left the military 2 years ago. He's a Special Forces veteran, so he's got some of that force multiplier knowledge that we needed to actually enhance the consulting and the training for our leaders. And we call that program the Humble Alpha Leader Program. And that program has now become a book. And that book is being released probably in the middle to the end of March. We also, of course, continue on doing our coaching consulting. We do have an online course called the Last Goal Setting Course You Will Ever Need, which works with identity, purpose, and certainty in setting 100 goals for the next 30 years. So you're not just setting short-term goals and falling off the wagon after your New Year's resolutions. And then, of course, we have retreats. Our mega retreat every year is to Peru, where we work with sacred plant medicine, ayahuasca, and San Pedro with business leaders in order to facilitate that identity, that purpose, and that certainty.
Man, that's amazing. Let's go further into the book. So I don't want to glance over that. Let's spend some time on that. So so first off, what was the real inspiration for this? Because obviously there was the online, or excuse me, you had the course. You've been doing this for a long time, the program for a long time, and so now to put it into book format, what's the inspiration behind that?
Well, what we were teaching was basically our experience, but we never really put a name or an acronym to everything we were doing. So we ended up with a fine-tooth comb over the last year, going through every triumph we had, every loss we had, every challenge we had, and figured out, okay, when was the first time I had that challenge, and how did I act, and how did I overcome? And so we went through our whole life, and it was astonishing. First of all, it was astonishing to learn who you are, and we came up with 5 core principles, or 5 core models we work with. One is HIT, honesty, integrity, and transparency. That's the way I and Lane live our lives. I've been teaching that for 15 years, and honesty is how you are, honesty to yourself first, and how you are to the world around you. And transparency is how you step into the world with that honesty, and then integrity is the byproduct. Then we have life enterprise. This life enterprise model means you're the CEO of your own life enterprise. As a CEO of a business enterprise, you answer to the stakeholders. So the stakeholders are anyone in your life, and you answer to them by elevating them and adding value. Then we have investing in relational capital, and that's a deep version of life enterprise, where you actually invest in the people around you, adding value, where intention is key and not expectation. And intention is the beginning, expectation is an end. We can't dictate the end, we can only dictate the beginning. This way we create value. And through creating value and to getting deeper into relational capital, we use creating space. This is where I have only the intention of adding value, no other cookie cutter solutions or anything, in any situation, whether on stage, in a sales meeting, or with a client. This way we create a neutral space around the both of us, allowing each of us to step into our greatness, creating solutions that we never would have come up with before. Then we have, of course, quality of life. And quality of life is, as I mentioned before, what everyone makes out of it. But in general, it's having discretionary time to do what you want, where you want, with who you want.
No, that's amazing, and I love that you said that. And in my opinion, it's in terms of you want to learn about yourself, write a book. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, putting one together, number one, is not easy. Number two, it forces you to really rethink process. Like you said, you've been doing, I believe, over a decade. You said, but you never really put that substance behind it. Or not substance, but you never put those acronyms behind it. You never packaged it. And when you do that, in my opinion, you end up trimming out some of the fat in your process along the way. I just know, because I've been working with many people on books, it just happens invariably. You're like, oh, okay, so this is where this belongs. This is where, and everything, through process, right? It just becomes better, in my opinion, more effective. What was that process like for you, kind of getting the book together and other things, and what has it meant for you up to this point? I know it isn't launched yet, but I know there's people out there right now that are sitting on ideas. They've been putting out, like, they have coaching programs, they have all these other things, and they know they should do a book, they want to do one, they need to do one, but they don't just do it. So what has that meant to you, kind of getting to the finish line with this one?
Well, for me, it was important to stay with who I am. Like, I identify who I am as a person, as a human being, how I step into the world, and how I greet the world. And that means to be authentic, and that word is overused. But being authentic means I use my language and in a way that I think, and came up with proprietary models that, to my knowledge or where our research hasn't ever been touched upon before, maybe aspects of it. But what it did was it really made me solid in who I am, number one, and number two, it really made me solid in my delivery. So when I talk to somebody, it's like, boom, they understand, they get it, they want it. Now, I have to say, this is my second major book. I had a Kindle book I released too. My first book was only written in German. It was a bestseller back in 2003. So, and that was literally just my life story, me rambling on about how I lived through war and stuff. This is putting a structure to my story and teaching people about how to achieve what I achieved and more, because these are universal models that can be used anywhere in any language in any country. So it took a lot of testing. We had to test the program, we had to validate the program, we had to see the results, we had to wait for those results to see what the long-term results were before we could even write the book. Otherwise, it would have just been a pipe dream.
Man, that's awesome. So Stephen, if somebody is listening to this and they want more information either on the book or on QOL, what's the best way for them to reach out? Well,
probably just go to our website, QOLenterprises.com. You can look under products for our products. Otherwise, on Facebook, we don't have a Facebook page, but myself, I'm Eugene Kuhn Official, or Elaine Ballone. You can look on the website. You see both of us there. Our websites, our Facebooks are there as well. I also have a podcast called The Hit Show, H.I.T. standing for, again, Honesty, Integrity, Transparency. The name there is The Hitman. So that's an interesting podcast as well. If you guys want to check that out.
Come on, hold on. You're holding out on the podcast. Let me tell. I love promoting podcasts. What's the podcast about? You gotta let the listeners know. Tell us a little bit more about the podcast.
Yeah, the podcast is all about honesty, integrity, transparency, how it plays a role in being more successful than you would if you weren't honest and transparent, therefore having integrity. And, I have people like Steve Sims or Jesse Elder. I got Dean Graziosi that's now also lined up now. I have, really top players who agree that honesty, integrity, and transparency is a core principle, is a group of core principles that one can live by and thrive more than if one just tried to get that, win after win after win instead of becoming a winner.
No, that's awesome. Well, hey, Stephen, really appreciate you. The name of the podcast one more time, because people are in their office right now. Go check this out right now. What's the name of it one more time? Let's get it in there.
The Hit Show, but you have to make sure it's H.I.T. show, The Hit Show.
And you get to hear the Hitman. I mean, that's a win-win. Hey, Stephen, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background. What?
Yes, indeed. If you join us on the Hit Show, you're part of the Hit Squad. So that's sort of cool.
Oh, I can't take it. It's too much branding, too much for my little mind to contemplate, Stephen. But thank you for coming on, and to the audience as always, thank you for tuning in. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you had a lot of fun listening. We had a lot of fun making it for you. If you did, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, Money Matters Top Tips, subscribe to the channel and leave us some comments below and tell us what you thought. Hopefully, we'll make Stephen answer those comments, because I'm not going to claim I have all the answers in them, but he will. So there you go. That's me putting you on the hook, Stephen. So thanks again for coming on the show.
I'm in. It was my absolute pleasure.